Hey everyone, welcome to the DLC Drop podcast. My guest today is Chief Pat, CEO and founder of Tribe Gaming. He's a content creator with over 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube. He's going to tell us all about how he started that channel and how he built it to where it is today. And also he's given some great insights for brands on how to effectively engage the esports community. Let's talk to Chief Pat. Drop in the untold stories of industry leaders, influencers, and insights on future innovation. I'm John Davidson, and this is the DLC Drop Podcast. All right, Chief Pat, founder and CEO of Tribe Gaming, well-known, highly followed content creator. Welcome to the DLC Drop Podcast, my friend.
Appreciate you so much for having me. Super excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. So a mutual friend of ours, Daniel Hers, he's been on the podcast. I've done a bunch of deals with him, and I was talking with him. He said, "Man, you got to get Chief Pat." And I was like, "Okay, that name sounds familiar. I've heard of Tribe Gaming." And then I look up on YouTube. I'm like, let me just see, get a couple stats here. 2.58 million subscribers on YouTube, my friend. Like, what's going on there? You're doing something that people love, apparently.
Well, I had an 8+ year head start. So, I know your podcast relatively new. I'm sure you can get there.
Less than 2.5 million subscribers to date, but we're working towards it.
Yeah, you're making moves. We'll do a shout out for shout out.
Perfect.
No, yeah, it's been quite a journey over the last bit. It's hard to believe I started my channel in 2012 and we're in 2021, and I've been spending a third of my adult life posting videos on mobile games and still love it today. It's crazy to think about and not necessarily what I expected.
That's awesome. So I'd love to hear a little bit of that journey to start. So 2012, posting videos on YouTube. Was anybody really doing that in games, or what was that dynamic compared to how it is today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2012 is almost like hard to believe that YouTube, it was a completely different ecosystem at that point on YouTube. Game developers weren't necessarily wanting creators to post videos on their games and post it on YouTube and monetize that type of content. There was a bit of a friction between developers and creators at that point. And honestly, for me, I had just been a lifelong fan of gaming. I was actually procrastinating for an accounting exam and I did not want to study. I scrolled the app store and all of a sudden I found a game called Clash of Clans in the strategy section. No idea what it was.
Yeah.
Looked well polished, looked like it could be a fun game. And I said, all right, I'm going to download this. I don't want to study managerial accounting. And, after playing it for literally 15 minutes, I was like, oh man, this is crazy. I've never played a game like this on a mobile device before. I had been, a gamer who played 1 or 2 games really hardcore per year.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is that next game that I am just going to play to absolute death and, get fully into. I texted my friends. I said, guys, join my clan. The rest was history. I posted my first video. I don't know why I posted my first video. I was actually I was searching through the single player maps within the game, which is such a small part of the game, but I was looking for guides on level 15 and searched it up on YouTube. No real experience with YouTube other than looking up cat and dog videos. And, no one had done a guide for level 15. And I said, hey, I'm a pretty savvy guy. I feel like I can sort of figure this out and how to record on a phone. And lo and behold, posted my first video, started getting a few subscribers, checked with my mom to make sure it wasn't her, checked with my friends in my dorm. Little did I know that, I was sort of becoming one of the first ever mobile gaming content creators way back when. And it's truly insane to see where mobile gaming has gone since, especially in the last 12 to 18 months.
That's incredible. Yeah, mobile gaming is absolutely the future of esports, and we see it just rising like crazy globally, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But did you always play games on your phone, or was there a point to where you kind of switched over to mobile?
Yeah, I mean, I've been definitely a gamer my entire life. Usually, again, playing like 1 game a year, I would fall in love with, and I would just play for hours and hours and hours. I wasn't the type of gamer that would pick, 10 games and play them and cycle between games frequently, but like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty 2, any of these style games, I would fall in love with these games and just play them night and day. And on mobile, I definitely had some experience up until the point of downloading Clash of Clans. You see games like Doodle Jump, and others, which honestly, I wish they would bring those style games back.
Yeah.
But, I wouldn't have classified myself as a mobile gamer until I downloaded Clash of Clans. It was sort of a running thing within my circle of friends. We would find a game, especially on mobile, and especially since we were in our second year of college. These are my high school friends that I wanted to stay in touch with. And these social type games where you can not only work together, but can chat in game became our new way of being able to hang out with each other. And Clash of Clans and what they did through their clan system in game, that became our watering ground to hang out with each other, at school. We're checking on each other's bases. We're discussing our best strategy for Town Hall 5. And that was the game that really said, okay, I love what's happening on mobile. There's high quality games on this platform that, are worth me playing for months and years like I have within PC and console. And that's when sort of the light bulb went off in my head, and the rest was history.
It's really interesting. And you're talking about games being essentially a social network, right? And we've really seen that rise with Fortnite, I think, is that games are even more a social network than it is a video game. It's almost as a byproduct, it's a video game, but you go on there to hang out with your friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, like a great point about that. My good friend Jeff, super well known in the mobile space and elsewhere. He told me that in China, actually, the number one dating app isn't a Tinder or a Hinge that we know in the US. It's a game called Honor of Kings. It's one of the biggest games in the entire world. It's a game very similar to League of Legends, but on mobile, and it's actually the biggest dating app in China. It's where people meet, they play with each other.
No way.
They get to know each other. They'll run duos together. It's fascinating how gaming has become that new watering hole of meeting and talking with people. I've had business meetings where instead of, hey, let's hop on a Zoom and hang out, it's like, hey, do you want to run duos in Brawl Stars, or do you want to run a squad in Fortnite? And it's almost like, you think about, business meetings where you think of people in their suits and ties and they go and play golf. It's now let's hit Tomato Town in Fortnite and talk about what's going on, which is pretty cool.
That is super cool. And that's kind of funny because it puts a whole new twist on it. It used to be, if you just got to be able to play golf well enough to, entertain a business meeting and, build that relationship. And now it's like, hey man, you better know how to play the game with the younger generation to jump in here and really build those relationships. So I have a question for you here. So at what point you launched your YouTube channel in 2012, at what point did you realize that this was really something that could take off? How long did that take?
Yeah. So, I mean, shortly after launching my channel, I had just actually transferred into my dream school. The University of Virginia had my sort of life plan in front of me, was studying finance, hoping to go to McIntyre, which is their school of business. And, first semester of my sophomore year, started posting videos. I actually, back then, I would record videos in my laundry room of my dorm because it's the only place with strong enough Wi-Fi. Okay. And then I would record the voiceovers for my gameplay inside of my car, because my roommate and I weren't very good friends. He would smoke cigarettes in our very small shared room together. So literally I'm playing Clash of Clans in a laundry room, doing the voiceovers in my car and editing and posting from that hazy dorm room. So
incredible.
That was quite a humble experience of getting into content creation. So from there, again, I just started posting videos. People were like, wow, this is great. No one's posting videos like this around mobile games, especially Clash of Clans. Can you do more and more and more? And lo and behold, I found myself, I remember a month or two in, and I was making $10 a day in AdSense. My mom came down and visited me. And I remember sitting down with her and having lunch at a really famous lunch spot in UVA. And I said, Mom, I am going to get Chipotle for free every day from this $10 a day I'm making. That was my goals and aspirations. I'm getting free Chipotle, a free burrito, no guac, because I can't afford it, every day from posting Clash of Clans content on my YouTube channel. I had no idea what it could turn into, but lo and behold, months and months throughout my sophomore year, it had came to a point where very quickly I was generating serious revenue through my channel. I'd been approved into the AdSense program, and I found myself in class refreshing my YouTube channel subscribers more than I was refreshing the pages of my financial accounting course. And I knew at that point, I had a pretty big decision whether to continue into school or go full-time into my, content creation career. I think I had, during this time of my sophomore year, many different life changes. One fun story, which I don't know if we have enough time to talk about. I won a trip to go to space. That is not clickbait.
We definitely have enough time to talk about that. How much? I mean, we'll make time. What the heck are you talking about?
So quick 2 seconds on that. So I started my channels at about 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, and Axe, the deodorant company, they had a competition where you could win a trip to go to space. You had to, number one, get voted to participate in their space program, and number two, compete for a trip to go to space in Cape Canaveral, Florida. So on my channel, I had 30,000 subscribers. I said, hey guys, would love to go to space camp. I've always been fascinated by space. Would be super fun to check this out. And for somehow, some way, I got an insane amount of votes, way more votes than my subscriber count, 110,000 votes, to where I was one of the top 2 vote finishers, and they sent me to Cape Canaveral, Florida. So I was in Cape Canaveral with 107 different people from, I think, 60 different countries in the end.
Oh, wow. This is and we were a big thing. Global initiative. Okay.
Global competition from Axe. It was, what a crazy marketing campaign. But basically, we competed in a zero gravity contest. We competed in a sort of a G-force simulator. We did all these crazy competitions. And in the end, I ended up winning the slot for the United States to win a trip to go to space on a commercial space flight from a company called X-Core Aerospace. Somehow, some way, there's videos on my YouTube channel. You should check them out. I documented the whole experience way back when. And yeah, sad ending. They, the company went bankrupt. So that was sad. X-Core Aerospace, but they did compensate us in other ways. So it wasn't lost. But winning a trip to go to space within my first year, that let me know that, okay, I need to drop out and pursue this full time. And since, my mom's background is as an entrepreneur in the jewelry business. My dad actually works in finance at his company, and he's, pretty well buttoned on the business end. Super privileged that my parents were like, yeah, this is a great idea, rather than being like, why are you dropping out of your dream school to play Clash of Clans on your iPhone 4? So, from there, I made the plunge and haven't looked back. It was definitely a very, very, wise decision. And it was the perfect timing as mobile gaming was ready to take off on a rocket ship.
Wow, quite literally. So I think, that's probably a great insight for our audience. The kids who are watching this who are like, when should I, consider if I can really make a career out of this? And maybe the answer is, if you are offered to leave planet Earth, you might want to consider leaving your university to pursue this. That's super insane. I had no idea about that story, so that's incredible. Really quick, you're competing in zero gravity. What does that even mean? Is does the winner the last guy who throws up, or how are you competing?
Yeah, so we had a couple of things. One of them, they took us in one of those stunt planes and we did loop-de-loops, and they did these tight turns to where you're doing 4Gs, and basically they're judging you based off of how well you're taking it. So I remember at the time, and the videos on my channel, I was like, all right, no matter what happens on this, and I'm actually, no joke, I'm a fearful flyer. I do not like flying, but I was like, I need to suck this up. I need to do this.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm going to yell woo. No matter what happens, I'm going to yell woo, so the pilot next to me thinks that I'm having a good time. So we're literally doing barrel rolls as I'm losing my mind, and you can just hear me very softly say woo woo in the background of the video on the channel. So there was that, and
as you're peeing your pants. Yeah,
exactly. And then there was another one where they have these zero gravity flights that you can buy. I think it tickets like $5,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. Where you take like a 737 or whatever plane, an A320. They take all the seats out of it, and it's literally just pillows and padding around it, and they'll fly you up, and all of a sudden do these dips and dives 10,000 feet at a time. And you can actually experience zero gravity. And they do about 15 of these different intervals where you're floating for 30 seconds at a time. So I didn't think I would go on that one, because the first day I got to space camp, the first group that was supposed to go flew up, and a bird ran into the engine and almost crashed the plane. So
whoa,
glad I wasn't on that flight, or I would have definitely never gotten on a plane again. But on the final day, they did let us go. And, fortunately they didn't see me throw up after the flight, or else I might not have gotten selected. So good times.
Incredible. One thing I'd like you to share with our audience is, how does monetization work exactly with YouTube and content creators? I'm not asking you to disclose your finances, but with AdSense and all that, how does that work exactly?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of ways you can monetize your channel as a creator. Obviously, first and foremost, every creator, I'm going to specifically talk about YouTube, is going to be, because YouTube, especially in the West, mobile gaming, especially in the West, is primarily VOD based content as far as most of the minutes watched and watch time and elsewhere. So on YouTube, obviously across your videos, you're just going to run traditional ads across everything that you do, whether pre-rolls, post-rolls, mid-rolls, classic advertisements. YouTube's going to take their cut. You're going to get your cut. most basic way to monetize your channel, so long as you're not posting any, advertiser unfriendly sponsorships. From there, obviously in the mobile space, and as mobile has grown, budgets for user acquisition for mobile games has skyrocketed dramatically.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of mobile gaming companies enter into this space and sponsor different YouTubers and creators for dedicated content or content integration. So that's definitely a significant portion of revenue for different creators. And that's not just mobile creators, but any creators are working on brand deals. It just so happens that in mobile gaming, the game developers are, pretty aggressive when it comes to spends to win these audiences. It's very hard to launch a new mobile game.
True.
And, creators have now become a pretty important strategy in that. Commerce is a big thing, direct to consumer. So selling apparel, selling, co-branded products. A lot of creators are starting to get more and more into different like white label products and creating their own, coffee beans and different strains and stuff like that, which is super interesting. And then obviously in the end, subscriptions and paid spend from your audience, whether with a Patreon or a subscription you offer on your channel to provide certain benefits and memberships. I would say those are the core things. There's others here and there, but I'd say for most creators, a vast majority of their revenue is going to be through that ad spend, unless they're the top of the top creator, and those brand deals that come in, especially in the mobile space.
Okay, and so at what level are you of subscription or viewership is somebody able to start monetizing their content? Where do you need to get to start making money doing this?
Yeah, so I think YouTube's guidelines right now is something like 1,000 subscribers and maybe like 4,000 hours or minutes watched on your channel to actually enable and turn on AdSense. But
Okay.
My general rule of thumb that I use for most creators is just a $3 CPM across all their views. So if a video gets 1,000 views, that's $3. And again, it's going to change depending on region and demo and elsewhere. But if you have a typical gaming creator in the US, I would imagine if someone's doing, 100,000 views on their video, they're going to do somewhere between $200 and let's say $400, between a $2 and $4 RPM or CPM. So with that in mind,
Okay.
you can sort of calculate how many views you would need to make it a sustainable career just from AdSense. And then obviously, different brand deals and otherwise plays a significant part. But I'd say for most creators, AdSense is at least half of their earnings, depending on their scale.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'd love to learn a little bit more of like, what's the specific life of a content creator, a YouTuber, if you will, right? What you do is what every kid's answer is, of what they want to do for a living. And that's pretty cool. But, like anything, like what you see on VOD on YouTube is just a small piece of it. I know it's a grind. I've thought about, what would it be like to really have to be on, right? You're high energy and, turn yourself on when you're not really feeling it that day. I'd love to learn a little bit more about, the importance of consistency and how has your content shifted? How has it changed over the years? I've got a couple follow-up questions, but I won't overload you too quick quite
Totally.
yet. But yeah, tell me a little bit about the background behind the scenes.
Sure. Yeah, sure thing. I mean, good point you made as far as people aspiring to be YouTubers. I think there was a recent study last year where, they polled children in China and the United States, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And in China, the number one result was an astronaut. In the United States, the number one result was a YouTuber. Can't comment necessarily on what direction society is heading to, but without a doubt,
different cultures.
This is the number one thing that kids want to do. And back when I started my channel, what blows my mind is this was not, no one knew about becoming a YouTuber or making a living. I used to lie when I would get my hair cut with what I did because I didn't want to explain it because no one would know. They're like, you make money playing games? You make money on an Instagram post? Like, do you have a real job? Like, I would get those questions all the time. So I used to say, I would complete my finance degree or I'm an accountant. And then people would actually ask me accounting questions and I'd be in a lot of trouble. So the times have changed drastically.
You're like, I didn't say I was a good accountant.
Yeah, exactly. Or I would be like, well, I'm in between jobs. And then they would get, they'd get a little quiet. So from a creator's perspective, outside of that, definitely, number one thing to touch on is like, transitioning between games and otherwise. So in general with creators can have they can have relatively short lifespans, as far as their content being active and otherwise, or some creators can last, decades, depending on who their audience is, how engaged they are with their audience, and what type of relationship that they built with them. You'll find with a number of creators, they'll post a certain game on their channel, especially gaming creators.
Yeah.
They'll post a certain game on their channel. They'll have success with it. The game will peak, the game will decline. And the moment that the creator starts playing other games or does other games, their audience says, hey, I like you, but I really like the game more. And if you're not playing the game that I'm playing or that I'm here to watch you for, I'm not really going to continue to consume your content. And that's the scariest thing being a gaming creator, is that the game you're playing is going to die. And when you try to transition and move on to a new game, your channel is going to suffer alongside it. And I think that's why a lot of creators are really working to, and we've seen this successfully with groups online on Twitch with a, Courage and a Ninja and a Dr. Lupo early in the Fortnite days.
Yeah.
They built such a strong clique and friendship and a content collective that transcended just Fortnite as a game, to where as they've transitioned and moved on to other games, their audience wasn't just watching them for Fortnite. They were watching them for the experience and the one-to-one relationship they actually had with the creator. And those creators have been able to move across other games. Now, for me personally, I've had to move between 3 total games since I've started my channel. I started with Clash of Clans from 2012 to 2015. I moved to Clash Royale from 2016 to 2018. And then from 2019 to the present, I'm moving to Brawl Stars. Obviously, these all exist within the mobile gaming universe, but it can be extremely difficult swapping games and taking that plunge. And I think that's why most gaming creators now are taking a keen eye to that. They need to diversify their brand outside of the game that they're playing. They need to be more involved with lifestyle. They need to build more true fans of them, rather than just a tips and trick guide for the game that they're playing, if they want to have a long-term career as a content creator to where their audience will follow them no matter where they go. I think that's what everyone, obviously, that's what everyone aspires to do from the gaming side. It's just a matter, it's difficult, but people have been able to make it work.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then for the type of content, there's something I do some content more on like the business side, like on LinkedIn. I'm posting stuff to be a thought leader, consulting in the esports space and stuff like that. And I follow people like Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk, who are, they do a lot of content. It's very much on the business marketing consulting side. One thing that these people talk about is being true to yourself and not necessarily chasing the likes. And one thing that I've started to do is I've only been doing my content for about 6 months now. And so it's very new, but is consistent and not just focusing on what the likes are. I feel like there's a balance there. Is
totally,
you can like what's consistent with your brand and what's true to you. What do you want to tell people? And I also don't want to fall in love with likes. I don't want to say, oh man, my last post got 1,000 views, but the one before got 4,000. Like, what does that say about me?
Right.
I just want to say, hey, this is an insight that I believe is important and valuable, and I want to share it. And whatever happens with it happens. But I also believe that posting every day or most days over time is what moves it. What has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And, I think creation, whether it's through a video platform, text, LinkedIn, Twitter, MySpace, wherever else, a lot of these things ring true. And there's a lot of parallels across the board. There's definitely, engagement is not all created equally. You'll see in different games, Call of Duty, for example, as a game. If you looked at Twitter, you would think that Call of Duty is the biggest game in the entire world because the amount of engagement they get on Twitter, the amount of engagement the players get on Twitter. But when you look at some of these Call of Duty, creators or players on YouTube specifically, not all of them are actually reaching, as many people through their video content that you might imagine. What I'm trying to get at is, not all engagement is created equally in the end. And I think you do need to really focus on your core true fans. There's plenty of theories out there that, to be a successful creator, you only need 1,000 true fans or 100 true fans,
sure,
or even 10 true fans who ride or die with you every step of the way. These are going to be the fans that activate with you on, when you dive into e-commerce. They're going to be the fans subscribing.
Yeah.
They're going to be the fans showing up to your meetup, and they're going to be the fans advocating for you to their friends, their clanmates within Clash of Clans and more. And building those true, genuine relationships and more targeted content is absolutely important. I think, I think from a creator perspective, you have a balance when you're posting videos on YouTube. If you post more videos, assuming that your views per video stays the same, there's obviously the potential to generate more AdSense revenue by pumping out more content in the end. Now, you have to weigh that against what's the quality level of the content you're putting out. If you put out a couple of duds in a row, especially with how competitive it is to get people's attention span nowadays, which seems to shrink a second every single year. If you put out a couple of duds in a row, you may never win this fan back again. And while you might have profited in the short term, in the long term, your brand and your core true fan base is going to take a hit. So it's a constant battle for creators. And I think a lot of creators, especially as they grow throughout their careers and they've been able to, establish some sense of financial security, they'll peel back on the amount of content that they're posting and post more of what they believe that they enjoy and that they believe that their core true audience will enjoy. And that becomes even more powerful when it comes to their influence, where, these hardcore dedicated fans will be singing their praises from the rooftop. So it's a constant, battle in the end. You can't just chase the likes. You can't just, do giveaways and think that your audience is going to care about who you are as a person and follow you, to the end of the world. That's just not how things work.
Interesting. So you grew this content platform, or your following individually, and then now you're the founder and CEO of a mobile esports org. Number one, when did you found Tribe Gaming, and what was that when you decided to go from an individual to no, now I want to own an organization that's bigger than myself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been really neat, especially in the last 18 months. But, even back when I started Tribe Gaming, we're seeing a new trend in the space where the creators are realizing that the distribution that they have with their channels and their influences and their voices is incredibly valuable. And that's why you see game developers rolling out the red carpet to creators via creator codes and special events and, different influencer marketing initiatives. Creators hold and continue to hold and will continue, will only get stronger when it comes to the amount of influence they hold in these universes. And now they're starting to parlay that into developing their own businesses. Mr. Beast is doing Mr. Beast Burger. You have obviously Nadeshot founding 100 Thieves. You have other companies, I think there's someone who did a coffee, plenty of creators who have done coffee companies and more. They're starting to say, hey, rather than take a brand deal from this partner, why can't I white label or start my own company that I'm passionate about and use my audience to drive distribution, which is, that UA is one of the hardest things nowadays, and the creators hold those keys. So for me, I've long time been an ambassador of mobile gaming since I started my channel, and I don't even play PC and console games anymore. The only game I played was League of Legends for a couple of years, which I'll touch on in a second. Okay. But I'm hardcore in mobile, and since I started my channel, I found my most joy in working with other mobile gaming content creators when they grow and they, as I see them grow their channel and having talked to them, giving them my best tips and feedback that I've learned over the years, how I built my brand, how I work with partners, how to view, content and more. I found a lot of joy in that, and eventually, actually at the same time, I found myself falling in love with esports and specifically League of Legends. I went to the 2015 League of Legends World Championship, which was amazing. I found myself playing League of Legends and diving into the space. And eventually it was like, listen, I really enjoy working with and doing collaborations with other creators. I really love esports, and I've built amazing relationships with most every mobile game developer from Supercell. And I lived in Finland for 3 months. That's, how much I love Supercell. Yeah. I built a relationship with Tencent and NetEase and all the above. And I was like, wait, why can't I combine all of my passions together? And as mobile gaming grows, which, just some stats as far as the context of growth of mobile gaming's gone from 10% of global games revenue in 2012 to where just last year, mobile gaming did more revenue than PC and console combined, like 50 to 52%. It's insane. When I started on YouTube, mobile gaming was an afterthought on YouTube. As of recent, mobile gaming was at 1.4 of the top 10 biggest games on YouTube. It's crazy. And as more and more AAA games, Fortnite with Fortnite Mobile, PUBG with PUBG Mobile, later this month, League of Legends actually with Wild Rift is going to be releasing in North America. As this continues to grow and as accessibility becomes king, mobile's been on this wavelength. And after, with my passions with creators, my passions with esports, my passions with mobile, hey, this is an awesome opportunity to create something truly special in Tribe Gaming. And that's why I founded Tribe as a mobile first esports organization. And we call ourselves an esports organization, but in the end, we're a content collective. We have the biggest mobile gaming content creators. We create custom and exclusive mobile gaming IP. And, whether it's Ferg, for example, the biggest Call of Duty mobile creator, playing 1v1s with OJ, the biggest, Brawl Stars creator. We create these memorable experiences that our audience wouldn't otherwise get. And then at the same time, we have these competitive teams compete. And yeah, that was my inspiration. It's been quite a journey for me, going from literally just a one-man show with YouTube to where now raising capital, cool. Managing a team, having an office down here in Austin, and a lot of fun stuff coming down the pipe in the next 2 months specifically. But yeah, it's been quite a journey and super, super fun.
That's awesome. What is it specifically about mobile games that you love so much that's different from PC and console?
I think what's cool about mobile is, like, when I think about some of my favorite experiences, I think of a game called Vainglory. Vainglory, mobile MOBA, 5v5, honestly, before its time, one of the most beautifully crafted games ever in mobile. Shout out to SCMC, creators of the game. I think about one time I was in San Francisco. They flew me out. We had a meetup. This was pretty early still in mobile gaming, 2014, 2015. And they're like, hey, let's just go to the bar, play some Vainglory, and have some drinks. We literally just roll up to a random bar. Everyone whips out their phones, and boom, all of a sudden we're playing a PC quality S game on our phones while ordering a beer and having a great time. I was like, what other gaming platform can you do this?
Good point.
Even, I went to Manila in the Philippines at one point in 2016, and we held maybe easily the biggest fan meetup I've ever been a part of inside of Clash of Clans. We're talking 1,500 people in a Manila shopping mall, judging Clash of Clans cosplays, and everyone whipping out their mobile phone at the same time with that same Supercell, ringtone popping off at once. Like the fact that you can play mobile games from anywhere, the fact that accessibility in the end, there's a reason that I think like over 2 billion people in the world have played a mobile game within some reasonable time frame recently. Like, that sort of accessibility and that ability to create experiences that you can't get from PC and console gaming, on top of the fact that mobile has now, from a quality perspective, it's at least equivalent to some, for me, I think it's very much on par with some of these different platforms, if not just a level below. That gets me fired up, and it gets me fired up to fight the fight that traditional esports fought just a couple of years ago. If you think about 5 years ago, you think of esports starting to grow, League of Legends, and people in the traditional sporting world going, well, what are you talking about? Esports is never going to be a thing. Wait,
right.
Double Lift's getting paid what? Bjergsen's getting paid what? Like, this is something we should be paying attention to. And eventually esports found itself, breaking through into the mainstream and is now culturally accepted across society, at least in my eyes, in the West. Now we're fighting that same stigma with mobile gaming and mobile esports and PC, where PC gamers who used to be, getting gatekeeped by traditional sports and the mainstream, now traditional gaming and PC and console esports, they're acting as the gatekeepers for mobile. They were like, what, mobile games? Isn't that just Candy Crush or Match 3 games? And mobile gamers are like, listen, guys, mobile gaming is exploding. If you're not paying attention, I don't know what you're doing. Mobile gaming's fighting for that same validation. And for me, it gets me fired up to be a part of that movement from 2012 till today. And I mean, especially in the last 12 months, I mean, we are at the tipping point for mobile gaming just completely taking over.
Yeah. And in addition to the accessibility from my perspective, it's also that young people are so comfortable with their phones and they can do so much. I've got a 5-year-old son, and to see this kid pick up my phone and go through pictures and just like, I remember the first time I saw when the iPhone was about to come out, the first one, I remember the trailer for it, and I remember exactly where I was when I saw it, and when they like zoomed into photos and swiped them and all these gestures, I was blown away. And my child doesn't know a world where that doesn't exist. And then at the same time, you have the technology improving, right? So that you can play, you can, I guess, play with more skill, or more specific control on a mobile device now than you could 5 years ago. And, as technology improves exponentially, it seems like those things are contributing factors, as well as everybody having a phone in their hand.
Totally. I mean, you talk to any kid nowadays, they're playing Roblox.
Right.
These kids are playing Roblox at a young age. Everyone is, their first gaming device of choice isn't a Nintendo 64 like me, or a Sega Genesis. They're not playing a PlayStation or a PlayStation 2. Their first gaming device is a tablet or a phone,
right?
And they're playing Roblox and they're playing these games. They don't know a world where mobile didn't have the high fidelity games of years past. They know that, that mobile was their first gaming platform of choice. And, you can graduate from, those entry level games into deeper and more complex games as time goes on. And of course, the big elephant in the room is streaming as 5G rolls out and we're able to stream full fidelity games on mobile devices, especially through, lovely devices like the Razer Kishi. Shout out to our partners at Tribe. How
There
about
you
that
go.
for a plug? The world's going to be our oyster when it comes to how you can, how you can play games on mobile, no matter what the game is. So, yeah, exciting times.
Why don't you tell us a little bit too about the mobile audience? A lot of people, this is something that a lot of people aren't going to be familiar with, but how is the mobile audience different from that console or PC audience?
Yeah, definitely. So right now, I would say that mobile, especially globally, penetrates different markets that PC currently does not. PC currently does not. If you think about certain countries and their economic status, a lot of these countries can't necessarily, many people can't afford a PC that can run these high fidelity games at the top level or the gear that they need or anything else. But a lot of countries, yeah, they have different smartphones and they have powerful phones and devices, whether iOS or Android, who can run these games at a high level. So with that, and especially over the last, I would say 6 years ago within mobile gaming, you're seeing different markets really explode when it comes to mobile gaming and having it, rival, if not surpass, traditional PC gaming there. So markets like Brazil and Latin America, very, very strong. Games like Free Fire. Free Fire was like the most viewed, one of the most viewed esports events in all of 2020, many, many, many times. If you look at that top 10 list, and it's it's an FPS game on mobile that's very popular. If you think about Southeast Asia is insane. The numbers that they're pulling with these different mobile MOBAs like Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, and more. The mobile adoption there is absolutely crazy compared to what you see on PC. And even in China and India, especially with PUBG Mobile, the prime minister of India had to come out and literally there was a press conference and she said, guys, we need to stop playing as much PUBG Mobile, mentioning it by name because it was that much a phenomenon within the country. That's the scale that some of these emerging markets have had within mobile. And obviously in the West, it continues to grow, which we're extremely excited about, and in North America specifically. But yeah, definitely a more geo approach with mobile. I would say audience makeup, people would be surprised, I'd say, compared to, from what we know with data from other esports organizations, from fans and more, our audience, I think, scales pretty well in line as far as our the amount of people who are 18 to 34 and et cetera within the Tribe fan base. So I think a lot of people have a misconception that mobile gaming is younger, which of course there is. I believe there is a jump as far as how many mobile gamers tend to be younger, but still by far and away our biggest demo is 18 to 34 when it comes to our audience, and we've only seen that even just increase over the last few years.
That's super cool. You're somebody who works with a lot of brands, right? Because you have a big following. You have an org that I'm sure brands are trying to reach out to you. Every brand, every agency is trying to reach young people, and all the young people are playing video games. I always say esports makes video games sponsorable because it provides these sponsorable assets. And I think the mistake a lot of brands and agencies make is they say, "Oh, these are familiar to me. I sponsor the NBA or the NFL with these same assets, teams, leagues, jerseys, venues, content, etc." But the community doesn't respond in the same way because they demand more from brands. From your perspective, as somebody who's been a partner with brands and seen what's working with the audience, can you give us some insight on how brands should approach this audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really, especially in the last year, we've seen brands get really smart when it comes to this. If I think 3 or 4 years ago in esports, and as brands wanted to be involved, which obviously, I think it's an amazing opportunity at a great price point to be part of the next generation of culture, which is happening within gaming. I think initially it was, hey, let's do some logo slaps, let's call it a day, maybe call, blah, 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 blah. And that's sort of it. And I think people realize that wasn't necessarily the most effective way to go about it. I think our favorite partnerships have been ones where brands come in and they're additive to the communities that they want to get involved with. I think, for example, great example of what we did with Oneplus. So Oneplus is one of the fastest growing handset manufacturers. They make amazing phones. They reached out to us, in the end of 2019, and we found ourselves in a partnership, which has been absolutely amazing. One of the coolest things that we did is working with Oneplus and in collaboration with Supercell, we were able to unlock 120 hertz on the Oneplus devices for when you play Brawl Stars, which is one of Supercell games, within the game. Previously, you could only play at 60 hertz within the game. So going and being able to create this moment through our partnership where now people who own OnePlus devices play at a higher fidelity and a better experience because of that relationship, people lost their minds. They're like, this is the coolest thing ever. On top of OnePlus, working with us to create custom content series where the biggest names in Brawl Stars would play together, which that content didn't exist before our partnership. They were truly value additive to the community to where now, if you look at like the Brawl Stars subreddit, there's OnePlus memes, they become truly intertwined into the ecosystem. And that, in my eyes, is a brand's dream, is to become synonymous with the game and to be part of their community and be known that they're adding value. So when we go to brands and when we talk to brands, it's like, listen, we need to have a targeted approach. How are you going to add value to our community, whether mobile broadly or tribe or just a particular game that we want to be involved in? If we want to create an amazing experience, it should be by us doing stuff and giving our audience something that previously they didn't have before. So whether through custom content that's bigger than ever that our audience falls in love with, whether it's with those direct collaborations by unlocking something that wasn't existing previously, that has been how we found success. And especially, I think a lot of people don't realize, especially on the brand side, the scale of mobile gaming. The scale and the KPIs are insane. I mean, collectively among Tribe, I think we mentioned this, but we do 100 million views per month across our creators in all of our titles. I won't name names, but I won't name names, but that's more than most major esports. Like you could name 3 of the top esports organizations. That's probably as many as a lot of them combined. We're probably pretty similar to, some like 100 Thieves when it comes to monthly viewership on YouTube. And no one really knows about that. So our goal is to really work to, especially even in collaboration with brands, create these tentpole and memorable experiences within mobile gaming that the broader gaming ecosystem and audience is going to realize, oh my Lord, I haven't been looking at mobile gaming really. But Tribe just did this insane thing. What is going on? Like, is mobile gaming, is this for real? Should I be paying attention to that? That's what we want to do as, we look to help, pioneer and push mobile gaming forward.
That's really neat. And that's a perfect example. And that example is more endemic, right? Because the brand in that case actually has to do with the actual game itself. And you used a word that I always use, which is experience. And we know that young people value experiences more than owning products. And so 100%. I think that was a perfect example because the audience or the brand in this case, they actually improved the experience of gaming in that way. I think with non-endemic brands, you have to get a little more creative, right? Because one of my favorite examples is actually Turtle Wax with Optic Gaming. And what they did was they took a non-gaming activity or passion, which is cars, because that was when Crim6 was with Optic. Hector had a G-Wagon. Flamesword has this super cool motorcycle. And they created a lot of content. And these people like Hector, he's got this Great Dane. And a Great Dane in a G-Wagon, you're going to need to clean up afterwards, right? And so he's just organically taking care of his car, right? Now, what is everybody who follows Hector? Every 16-year-old sees their Honda Civic as their G-Wagon, essentially, right? And boy, I think my first car, I took care of that car a lot more than I did even the car that I have now, which is a little more expensive. And you got to believe when these young people go to AutoZone or wherever they're picking up their car care products, they're picking up Turtle Wax because their favorite content creator, their favorite esports pro uses that on their Porsche or their G-Wagon or their motorcycle. I love how they got really creative and said, wait, this isn't within the act of gaming, but this is what the gamers are organically doing specifically Crim6 and these others. What are some things that you can share? I always talk about giving people an opportunity to compete, improving the fan experience, creating unique experiences, like kind of you talked about the space thing. There's content, and then there's also in-game items. Are any of those things that you see specifically for non-endemics that work really well, or is there anything that you'd add to that to say, hey, if your product or service isn't directly tied into the active gaming, this is what the audience loves?
Definitely. No, great point as far as endemic versus non-endemic. And I think that's an awesome example as far as a natural integration, that goes outside of gaming. Obviously, Hector and the Optic crew, they're founded within gaming, but these guys, they're not gaming robots. They have interests outside of gaming. And the fact that they found a partnership where it was such a natural fit, it's not like someone who, it's not like they took someone who didn't even own a car and say, hey, we need you to plug Turtle Beach and do 3 shout outs and this, and this. It was like, hey, recording a vlog, and all of a sudden you see me, working on my car, and this makes sense. I think if you're a non-endemic brand, obviously, let's say you're an automotive partner, for example, and or you're a banking partner who comes into the space, and there's not a whole lot that you can do that endemic, from an endemic perspective that is a one-to-one with the esports audience. I still think that these brands can definitely be additive to their different communities, depending on what they're able to spin up with the particular creator or organization that you're working with. So if I'm, for example, I am Ally Bank. I'm Ally Bank, and I'm like, listen, guys, I want to get into the gaming space. I want to be involved, and I want to find a way to have our message resonate with our audience, whatever Ally Bank's message ends up being. And if they're coming in, they're talking to someone like us or someone else, and they want to add value to the community, I still think there's plenty of ways that they're able to do that. Obviously, potentially we can find some product work-ins with what they're doing on the banking side, but what are the current pain points for the Clash Royale audience within mobile gaming? Okay, well, honestly, right now within Clash Royale, I would say the path to pro experience is pretty weak. There's not enough third-party tournaments where people can get their skills down before they graduate to the highest level of Clash Royale esports. And there's not enough knowledge, let's say, as far as how to become a pro within Clash Royale and what it takes to be a professional mobile gaming player. If I'm a brand and I'm coming in and I want to get involved with Clash Royale, it's like, okay, we're going to work with someone to develop a tournament series specifically for these amateur players to gain their skills and work with them to, become the next generation of Clash Royale pro players. And also we're going to create a new class and series on Discord where we're going to have the biggest and best mobile gaming players who have made it and have become these superstars, like a Surgical Goblin. We're going to have them come in and teach the new and up and coming whippersnappers about what they need to do to be the next big mobile gaming pro. At that moment, you're now becoming additive to the community where people are like, wow, this is crazy. Ally came in, they're creating this new path to pro system. They're creating these workshops where I'm getting this experience I would have never otherwise gotten. And, again, depending on Ally's suite of services and what they provide, I literally have no idea. They can tie that in with what's going on where maybe throughout these classes, Surgical Goblin or this big mobile player are going to be giving away or creating certain experiences or opportunities that relate to what they're doing within their business. That, in my eyes, is a very natural approach from a non-endemic. It just takes a smart group that you're working with who understands your brand and where you're going to guide you in the right direction. And I think there's been plenty of esports partnerships where that hasn't necessarily been the case. You'll see some very strange logo slaps and naming rights and everything else. But I think the smartest groups are taking that sort of approach, and their audiences are eating it up.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing from you is additive, community first. Think about what does the community think? Think about what they want, not necessarily what KPIs does my brand have immediately. And the reason why I was able to gain a lot of knowledge here was because I asked you. Right? Like, I mean, it seems so simple sometimes, but there's a lot of C-suite executives at these major brands who have been successful for 20, 30 years. And they say, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna and they skip the step of talking to people like yourself or simply sitting down with the community and saying, what's cool that we should do more of? What sucks that should change? What's missing? What's a pain point that you wish would be solved? And let's work together to accomplish this. And I think people like yourself do a very good job at it. The other thing that I would say, which is probably a challenge for brands coming into esports, is a team that will effectively execute on the partnership. Right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm really working hard with a number of people to try to, lend knowledge from complementary experts who will listen to the gaming community, and the gaming community will learn from them. Because you have a lot of young people like yourself in esports that are incredibly knowledgeable about games, but maybe you haven't had a decade of experience fulfilling partnerships and executing activations, right?
Right.
And so that's a challenge for a lot of these brands is like, okay, we got a great strategy, maybe, right? that's saying a lot for some people, but the next step is, who is my partner? A great idea executed poorly ends up just being a bad idea because the ROI is not generated for the partner as a result.
Right.
So,
and how do you show value to, the higher ups internally as well? I think you talk to, especially, teams are getting more sophisticated now, but, you might come from a world where people are talking about NPS scores and, fancier reporting tactics and, these different audience profiles and, everything else. And I think that especially early on within esports and gaming, there wasn't a level of sophistication there enough to be able to work with partners to synthesize that data and get back to them what they sort of need. So,
right.
Again, we can only speak to our partners. But from what I've seen in the landscape, I think things are definitely improving with how people have, worked over the last couple of months. And I know for us, especially over the last few years, we've renewed on every, account that we've continued to work with every partner that we worked with from day one. So we're very excited about that.
That's incredible. And when you do that, you're doing a service for the industry as a whole, because it's word of mouth advertising in the C-suites and with these CMOs who are saying, hey,
Totally.
I sponsored Tribe, and guess what? Like, that's working for us. And then another CMO might say, wait a minute, like, I tried a sponsorship over here and I got rejected and blacklisted on Reddit, and, they won't let me back in. And another will say, yeah, we thought we had a good idea, but esports doesn't work. And then, and that negative word of mouth can happen. But I love it when people like yourself with Tribe Gaming can have successful partnerships and you're renewing people. It's easier, it's less costly, less time intensive to renew than to get a new sponsor, as we know. And so it's really amazing to see you guys doing that. And I definitely recommend you guys as a wonderful partner for people who are trying to get into this space.
Appreciate that.
Before we end here, what is something that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think we're, not only Tribe, but mobile gaming as a whole is in a really awesome spot. And the next few months are going to be very, very exciting, whether for us, we should have at least one new partnership announcement, potentially some other news, which I can't dive more into, but very, very exciting times for us internally. And then additionally for mobile gaming as a whole, many of these amazing AAA titles and even specific new mobile gaming titles are finally coming to market. League of Legends Wild Rift should be, at the time we film this, it's March 12th. It should be coming out the 29th in North America. We obviously have Apex Legends Mobile, which is on the precipice, Pokemon Unite, so many more. This is truly one of the most crazy times to be inside of mobile gaming as it sort of rides this tide that it's been on and it's finally crescendoing. So, I couldn't be more excited. As far as our plans go, a little under wraps, but people, hopefully people like yourself will be able to, spread the good gospel of what we have going on. But, especially within the mobile landscape, expect more of these high fidelity AAA titles to release over the next few months, and expect more outside interest, even from other, esports organizations that traditionally weren't part of, mobile gaming. Expect them to enter into the space and expect, different brands and partners to follow suit. So, we'll just have to wait and see. And next time we're on, I'm sure we'll have a lot to dive into.
Right on. I love the tease there. And so everybody listening, watching this episode, definitely make sure that you're following Chief Pat, follow Tribe Gaming. Not only are they going to be entertaining, but they're going to be a great group to learn from, to see how you can execute in the esports space with them or other places in the space that makes sense for your brand. So Pat, thank you again for joining us here on the DLC Drop. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. Chat soon.
Sounds great. Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Future podcast network and produced by Innovation Media Enterprises. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review.